Happy Wednesday, everyone. Welcome back to episode 6 of Trading the Markets. I'm Bijan Maleki, and I'm, of course, joined by Kris Bullock, our RV crypto contributor. Kris, happy Wednesday. I think this might be the first time we've talked about the markets on air with green candles.
It is indeed a happy Wednesday. A happy Tuesday too.
Yeah. It's as I'm sure everyone knows who's watching this, the market's completely turned yesterday. We have green candles. Bitcoin obviously crossed 90,000, and some of the coins we've been talking about have been pumping green as well. So we'll definitely be diving into that as well as our trade ideas. Wanna just a couple of reminders before we dive into all of it. Just note, this is not financial advice. Kris and we just give recommendations and ideas for you to further research, or ones that we're kind of keeping an eye on. Sometimes they work out, sometimes they don't. That's just crypto. And if you guys have any questions that you want us to answer live on air, or any charts you want us to take a look at, right here on air, just throw them into any of our chats, and we will we'll just dive right into it. So without further ado, Kris, what are we looking at today? What's on your mind as we start this midweek green candles?
Yeah, we got quite a bit of stuff. I want to touch on Bitcoin. I want to touch on a cool meme coin indicator that I found. I want to talk about the fear and greed index. We got all kinds of smaller cap stuff to dig into, as well as the SWI ecosystem. Yeah, lots of good stuff lined up. I think real quick though, let's start with just the fear and greed index right off the top, because I think that'll set the tone for everything that we're going to talk about here. So I've got a chart pulled up. This is the kind of the de facto fear and greed index that we've been using in crypto for some years now. This was the OG one that came out from alternative.me back years and years ago. I know there's newer ones out, but anyway, I like this one. I've been using this one forever. And as we can see, we've got a massive upturn over the last like 3 days. And we've been hovering for a long time in the low like 20s and 30s for, I feel like, months. And then, just out of nowhere, it went from 39 to 47 and then just blew up to 72. And so if we kind of look at that on here, we're well into the greed area. Last week we we're at 29. Now we're at 72. So we haven't been this high since back at the beginning of February even. And I think that's a good sign. It touches on the idea that, like we talk about a lot, the analogy of the beach ball being held underwater. And I think that yesterday there was some news announcements that came out that, released that beach ball, so to speak. And it was just sort of waiting for a catalyst to blow up. Now, how long it can sustain that remains to be seen. Certainly things went from well oversold to well overbought in the blink of an eye. So as we're going to get into, we're going to need a little bit of equilibrium here at some point, but this is just a sign of the market was ready to pounce basically, and pounce it did. So yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it's just par for the course of crypto Twitter. Everyone was all doom, literally just like 3 days ago, and then one green candle, and everyone is we're so back, right? That's usually how it goes, and I love that we have a chart that actually shows us exactly how those trends lay out. So yeah, well done showing us what that looks like.
Right. So I'm glad you touched on that. That is the question: is are we so back? And the answer is almost. So I think I want to touch on a couple of charts to kind of show what I mean by that. And the first one is, last week we talked about the Ichimoku cloud briefly. And I had mentioned in that episode that once price typically breaks through the edge of a cloud, it has a tendency to act as a bit of a magnet and quickly go to the other end of the cloud, whether that's to the downside or to the upside. And we can see here how it, kind of pierced through. And in this case, it literally blew through the cloud in one single candle. So act as a magnet, it certainly did. And right now, it's pretty much right on the top side of it, holding it as support. So it's nice to see that it closed above it, has kind of dipped down a little bit below it to retest, and is currently holding it as support at the 93.8 level, which is a very good level. And if we look at it just on this other candle, using this other just kind of more basic indicators, we've got just sort of horizontal support and resistance levels based on structure here. We can see that we blew through this previous structure that was based on this cluster here, and we've poked up into this structure that we were holding for quite a few months going back towards into Q4 of last year even. And so it's nice that we broke up through it and are currently holding the bottom edge of it as support. You'll notice here too, this band here, the bull market support band, we've actually surpassed it to the upside as well. So this is all extremely positive, but there's a couple more things we want to see. I know we talk about a lot where we've been doing okay on the daily time frame. We've seen solid trend reversals on the daily time frame, but we're still in that no man's land where we haven't really reversed on the weekly time frame yet. We're starting to do that finally now. And so what we're really waiting for in this setup is basically just for us to stay above this bull market support band and for the two moving averages that make it up basically pivot back to the upside. So we're looking for that there. And then if we go back to the Ichimoku real quick, what we're looking for here is we want to see a full reversal of all of these lines, basically. We want to see it where the blue crosses over the green and where both of these cross over both of these cloud levels and where the cloud itself turns green, pretty much like we had back here. We can see, you know, we've got the structure here. Back here, it's exact opposite. The green is on top, then the red, then the green, then the red. And we got a green cloud. So this is what we're looking for. And once we get this, once we are able to achieve this new structure where we get back to what it looked like here, then we'll know, then it's sort of, we're so back. Then it's like, all right, rock on, everything is green, you know, clear skies ahead, basically. So that's kind of the final metrics that I'm looking for, you know, across my indicator set. So yeah, we're close, but you know, the weekly is still not quite fully triggered yet. So yeah.
Yeah, well, that's why I'm wearing my banana hat to push us over the line there. We're summoning it. Kris, you also debuted, I don't know, well, it was a debut for me, but on Monday on our TA show, you showed what I think is now my favorite indicator, which is the MCG. You want to kind of highlight that for us and show us how you use it?
Yeah. So I had stumbled on this sometime back in December, maybe give or take. And it's just an indicator I found on TradingView. I want to give credit to the publisher of it. He goes by the professor, I want to say. Let me just kind of briefly, so that it's important that, you know, that I acknowledge who did this because I did not create this. So just real quick, if I can use my mouse. Okay, so this indicator was created by a guy who goes by the professor or like the pref, PROF. And he made this indicator called Memecoin gains. He's actually made a ton of indicators on TradingView. If you go in there and just kind of search for him, he's made like a dozen. And I loaded them all up and they're all really cool, but this one stood out to me the most. And the cool thing too is he made this open source. And so because of that, I was able to go in and tweak it a little bit. And prior to that, it basically tracks like, you know, a number of the top performing, like highest market cap meme coins. But I wanted to add some of the newer ones that have really sort of taken the market by storm in the last, you know, 6 months or so. So I added SPX and Fartcoin and Giga Chad to the equation so that it sort of factors those into the mix too. So I modified it a little bit. And then also I went ahead and overlaid it over the top of my Bitcoin chart just so that you can, I think it's a little bit more accurate in sort of seeing the impact it has. But basically in a nutshell, what this indicator is this chart line here basically tracks like it's like an aggregate of a number of top performing meme coins, about a dozen or so, give or take. And so whenever their prices, you know, get above this certain threshold here, or rather when the moving average that tracks these prices gets above a certain threshold, it triggers a cloud, whether it's a peak indicator, in this case where it's red, or it's a bottoming indicator, in this case where it's green. And it's really cool because you can, I swear I stared at this chart for like an hour yesterday, and just the more I looked at it, the more insight I gleaned from it. And it was amazing. And it's cool because it goes back quite a ways. It goes back well into the earlier stages of the 2021 cycle as well. And so you're able to kind of look at how like the likes of Doge and Shiba, you know, played out in that cycle, and how it did a really good job of like triggering the peaks, both market peaks. And then it did a good job of sort of triggering these counter trend rallies we had in the bear market on the way down. And then, you know, coming a little more recently into this current cycle, it flagged the sort of the ultimate low, sort of the start of the current 4-year cycle. It triggered that and flagged there. And then we had, if you remember, we had a boring zone kind of near the end of 2023 also, where everybody was about to go nuts, and it triggered, you know, the breakout there as well. And then also the the last boring zone we had too. And then not only that, we know that memes kind of had a pretty significant run up, sort of Q4 of 2023 into Q1 of 2024, and this called the peak of that really, really well too. And I remember a few smarter people in the Real Vision community had said, I think we're nearing a peak here that's going to go for quite some time, and they were spot on. And if I'd have known about this indicator back then, it would have called that peak too really well. So that brings us to right now today where we are. We can see that we've had the biggest sort of trough yet in this indicator's history, going back, some years now. But it called the bottom of the meme coin dip, spot on, because this actually represents the aggregate price of several of the best performing meme coins. So it's kind of cool because you can see the bottom here forming and then running up. And as soon as this moving average crossed over right here, this was the trigger. This was sort of the buy trigger. And so right now, well, as of a few days ago, it triggered a major buy, like a major buy signal, basically. And we know that the last few times it's triggered that, we had this big run up here, we had a huge run up here, and then this last time we had a huge run up here. And so we're right in the buy zone now. We're right in the buy trigger, according to this meme indicator, for potentially a significant run up. Now, one thing I noticed as I was looking at this is I was like, well, this is cool, but I'm like, man, if you look at the price, it's already like a third of the way up into this sort of these boundaries here. And I'm like, I feel like we haven't gone up enough yet for that to be the case. Like, I'm not ready for it to slow down yet, and here we are already a third up into this. And I feel like we're just getting going. So I'm like, is it just going to peak out here like it did these last couple of times? And then that's the end of it. But if you kind of go back and look back at sort of the extremes of the 2021 cycle, it actually exceeded this top threshold line by almost double. I mean, it was like, it blew way, way up and above it, multiple times even. And so I'm like, okay, well, that's cool. Then I guess, maybe if it's going to sort of replay that. And we are expecting, we are getting into the sort of latter stages of the banana zone where we're expecting some pretty serious legs up at this point, some kind of blow off top type legs up, hopefully at least a couple, 2 or 3 of them to go still. But anyway, point being, we might be looking to expect a scenario where we get a massive overextension of the meme coin sector, which I think is going to, trigger one of these red zones, but it's also going to be very good at sort of indicating when the rest of the market is getting very frothy, is getting very overbought. And I think that it'll prove to be a good sort of topping signal too, for when it's time to start to risk off and start to be DCAing out and taking profits and, knowing that the market is overheated. We know when memes get way overheated to the point where we're in these red zones like we had back here and like we had briefly in the beginning of 2024, we'll know that that's going to work as a good top indicator. And I know I've talked about a number of top indicators in some of my shows over the months that I'm going to use to know when it's looking like the market's getting cooked. And this is definitely in the mix now. This is going to be one that I will rely heavily on as part of my toolkit for determining when the market is peaking out and likely going to be done. So yeah, there's just so much insight here. And then finally, you can also use this indicator just to get a sense of how the meme sector specifically is doing on its own. And I think it's proof that memes never really die. They just kind of go in cycles, just like everything else. They ebb and flow. There's lots of ups and downs, but they never really go away. They never drop off the map entirely. And this has been tracking the same set of memes going back, 3-4+ years. So the notion that memes might die someday or they might all go to zero or whatever, that's not accurate, I feel like, at all. Sure, some do. Of course, when you've got 1,000 memes a day coming out on pump.fun and stuff like that, yes, those memes are likely going to die. But the big market cap, high market cap, memes that have achieved a bit of a critical mass, those don't go away. They just go in cycles. And they actually are very good at indicating when crypto is in a risk on versus a risk off environment. And so I think that this indicator is an excellent proxy just for the overall market sentiment. And there's so much insight here that you can glean from it. And it's just so great. So I recommend everybody go and throw this in your trading view and just keep it locked and loaded, because there's a lot going on here that's very, very useful.
Yeah, absolutely. When we first saw this chart on Monday during our longer TA session, And we saw that, ticking green as well. And I just, full disclosure, everyone, I literally used this chart on Monday and added some more to my bags. And here I am on Wednesday, and it works, at least
Yeah.
so far, right? So I think
Yeah.
I don't want to like give it I don't want to say it's like so spot on, because in crypto it's really tough, but like it's pretty much been as spot on as you can get just based off of the history that you're showing there. So like I think this is one that everyone's got to use going forward. And I love the way that you laid it out. This was you that did that, laying it out on the Bitcoin chart, so we can really see how it lines up to,
Yeah.
basically what the baseline is, which is Bitcoin. So
Right.
with that being said, actually, I want to, Ruth asked us, if we had a question coming in from Ruth, wanted to know
Yep.
if we're going to dive into the Sui ecosystem at all. And Ruth, let me tell you, we absolutely are. So last week on this show, we actually called out Deep, to add some Deep, and then we charted it on the Ichimoku cloud. Looked really good. So if you were able to get in around sometime last week, you should be enjoying about a nice 3x today. We absolutely love Deep in the Sui ecosystem. But yeah, let's dive into Ruth's question and see what we can glean from that ecosystem. Kris, I know you have another coin within that ecosystem that you wanted to touch on as well. So let's see what the charts are telling us.
I do indeed. So yeah, just because we just mentioned it, let's briefly touch on the Ichimoku cloud with Deep for a second. And we can see that it too acted as a bit of a magnet, pulled it right through to the top. It has since retraced a little bit and is back down through. Now that's to be expected because Deep went up a lot. I mean, what was this candle yesterday? It was like a 98% upside. It was almost a 2x.
Insane. Yeah.
So it did a 2x in one single day. So you're bound to get a little bit of a retracement there, of course. That just sort of goes without saying. So still really strong. And then if we just look briefly on the, let me just go over to my other indicators here real quick. So yeah, same thing. I think also noteworthy, I had a couple of support resistance lines drawn ahead of time, that were already on this chart. And we can see that it actually came up here perfectly, tapped off this resistance line, went above it for a minute, and then has dropped back down below it. So it's retesting it. It is technically below the line at the moment. So it is holding as resistance and not support yet. I think also noteworthy is this did flag a DMARC 13 sell on this big massive candle, which also is a pretty strong overbought indicator. So we may see Deep backfill some of this. We may see Deep even come back down to like this bull market support band or just somewhere back down into this range. To me, that's not worrisome at all. To me, that's just sort of when you get a candle like this, it doesn't just go up only from here. So, markets don't do that. So don't be surprised if you maybe bought at the top. You're gonna be upside down for a minute probably while this backfills some, and that's okay. Just know that in a month from now, you'll probably be well up. More than likely, hopefully. So yeah, I think that that's okay. That's sort of to be expected. But overall, this looks amazing. I mean, the fact that it literally blew through this entire cluster right here, blew way through the bull market support band, all the way up into this previous level of resistance, up into this top zone, to me is phenomenal price action. And this tells me that clearly there's a bid for Deep and people are interested in buying it. And so yeah, I think that this is obviously one of the stronger assets in the Sui ecosystem, and it's not going anywhere. We can touch on just Sui real quick. I think I'd like to do that too, because it too, just on its own, is doing phenomenally well and reflective of what we saw from Deep. I mean, this is a much bigger market cap, but even it went up 21% yesterday. And today it's up 11% right now. It was up a little bit higher a minute ago, and it's finally back up into its bull market support band too. So it's working on reversing its weekly trend as well. So the Sui ecosystem was actually lagging a bit behind. I know because of the memes, like I touched on in that meme chart a minute ago, we know that memes were kind of leading the pack a little bit in this reversal. And so Solana was the big beneficiary of that for the last like 2 to 3 weeks. Solana has been doing really well. Granted, it was more oversold than Sui was, but Sui was a bit lagging behind Solana for some time. And so Sui just basically had a rapid catch up like in 2 days. It was like, here I am, don't forget me, I'm still in the game. And so it was like, it just overnight, basically, it caught back up to it sort of reclaimed its position of the sort of mid majors that are that are sort of leading the cycle, this time around. So it's not going anywhere at all. Deep looks really good. Sui looks really good. And then, like you said, Bijan, so there was another one. There's a meme coin in the Sui ecosystem that a member of our Discord community touched on our Monday show that brought to our attention. And this also really caught my attention. The more I looked at it, I was very intrigued. And so this one is Lo-Fi. It's a Lo-Fi the Yeti, I think is the official name of it. And it's a meme coin on the Sui ecosystem. But what caught my attention was, the steady run up, the steady solid reversal, but more to the point, this amazing volume breakout here. Because normally what we'll see in a lot of breakouts is sometimes volume even stays flat, and we'll start to see these big up candles, but with a flat volume profile. And that means that typically it's not as genuine. It's a little more artificial. It kind of means that maybe there's some big players or market makers that are just sort of slowly inching the price up, but we're not really getting organic buy-in. But a big volume breakout like this, where you're seeing like, more than a week plus of well above average volume, where every day it's higher than the next. To me, that's noteworthy. To me, that's organic volume coming in. And so this caught my attention. Now there's a couple things that stood out here to me. Also, we had a DMARC 9 on this red candle last week that it just kind of blew right by. Like it completely ignored it. Now we've got a DMARC 13, which means it's even more overbought still, to the extreme. And currently we've got a red candle that sort of reflects that. However, normally I would be like, okay, it's going to mean revert back to the 20-day moving average. It's going to drop back down to 2 cents or whatever. That may not be the case because one, because it's a micro cap, and two, there is precedent where we'll get a 13. Like I'm going to use SPX as an example. So last year we had SPX do this massive 100x run, and within that chunk, we had a few 13. We had a 13 here, and yeah, it did drop back to the 10-day. Before blowing up again. And then we had another all the way up to 13, and it kept going for like a solid week plus after that. And even really, it even continued to set more highs further on. And so I'm like, well, what's the difference here? Because sometimes you'll get a 13 and it'll roll over, and then other times you'll get a 13 and it'll keep going. And the difference I'm noticing is definitely in the volume, how we saw it had the 9, but volume just kept ripping like higher and higher and higher. And even on this day where we got this 13, the very next day, volume just ripped higher still. So this told me that the market didn't care that it was overbought. The market was still actively engaged in buying up this asset. And so if we go back to Lo-Fi, if we go back to Lo-Fi, really what I'm looking for here is this current volume candle today. Like, so if this volume indicator, if this can close with higher volume, even if the candle itself ends up red, if we get higher volume still today than we did yesterday, and it continues this uptrend breakout trend, then I'm going to be thinking maybe there's a little bit more gas in the tank on Lo-Fi before it eventually rolls over. Now, yes, at some point it will have to catch its breath, just like we saw Deep did. I like that this is a little bit more sustainable and it's not all happening in one single candle, like how Deep did. Generally, when you get a little bit more sustained uptrend like this, it tends to not correct as deeply. So we may only get a pullback back to the 10-day moving average, or maybe it just sort of treads sideways for 2 or 3 days and then runs up. But the key thing will be to watch this volume. And so I'm going to be sort of glued to today's chart and see how this volume does. Right now, we're well on our way. Like we're well up into this range already today. We're well above the average from the moving average line here. So we're on track to close out with a higher volume day than the previous day, because it's only 12. It's a little after noon here for us in the States. So we still got 5.5 hours, I think, before the daily candle close, maybe 6.5, if I'm not mistaken. So plenty of time for volume to keep cranking away on this. And if I think, like I said, if volume is higher, I think there's a little bit more gas in this tank, and this run might keep going. So Lo-Fi looks solid though. And we know too, Kraken listed it. It's on their listing roadmap. I actually went and confirmed that. For sure. I went and looked at the Kraken website, and it is indeed listed on their listing roadmap. So we've got some tier 1 exchanges, centralized exchanges, potentially going to list this. We also know, and I did confirm from their official social media, that they are going to be they do have tokens allocated for an airdrop to Sui Play holders, the people that ordered that Sui Play gaming device. So that is confirmed as well. So I think all of this news is sort of driving attention to this asset, and there's more upside catalysts to come. So to me, this is a solid trade, a solid buy, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely.
And finally, the market cap is only like 3.5 million, or I'm sorry, 34 million. The market cap is only 34 million, which is super low for something like this. So, there mathematically, there's an easy, 10x sort of in the bag to get up into kind of mid-range, mid-cap meme type categories. So that was another thing that really kind of ticked the box for me, was the super low market cap still. This one's flying under the radar. And I think if SWE can continue its momentum, which we can see that it is, and the likes of Deep can continue its momentum, I think Lo-Fi is gonna ride that wave too. So yeah.
Yeah, shout out to Slayer for bringing that to our attention in the chat on Monday. He also broke the rumored news about the Kraken stuff to us too. So yeah, our community is fantastic, and I'm glad you touched on that, because that's what makes SWE so exciting. Is that it's a new coin with still so much room to grow. Developer activity is just continuing to grow there. The team is continuing to build. They're everywhere. So also the coins within that ecosystem are so exciting too, because they, like, again, as much room as SWE has to grow, the Deeps and the Lo-Fis and maybe, the Walruses and the Cetuses, we'll see. They just have so much upside left to capture. So it's just really exciting time for that ecosystem. So I want to move over to a question that actually we got from Teo on Twitter. He wants to know your opinion on the ZBCN chart. So this is actually the first time this coin is being brought to my attention here. I believe it's ZBIC, but the ticker is ZBCN.
Let's see. Let me pick a good exchange source here. I'm going to go with, that's the problem. I never know what exchange has the most price history. Let's try BitGet. Okay, it looks like it's been around a minute here. So I'm gonna first look at it on the weekly time frame, just to kind of get some perspective before I break it down here. Oops. Okay, so I mean, it's mostly just been flat on the weekly. Clearly, we can see volume has dropped off. I'm not sure what the catalyst here is for that. I'm only basing it on what I'm seeing from a technical standpoint. But this launched sort of middle of last year, it looks like, and has basically just gone sideways. It makes me want to compare it to Bitcoin first off.
Yeah.
So let's see what we got there. It's not really outpacing Bitcoin. We can see it's in a more of like a weekly downtrend against Bitcoin. It did bump up against its bull market support band, but then has closed back down below it. I don't know. Honestly, my quick take is I'm very just sort of neutral on this asset. I don't know anything about it fundamentally. I have no idea what it is or what it does or where it even exists. But just strictly from a technical standpoint, this doesn't really excite me, because it's more or less just sideways price action. So this tells me that it doesn't have a ton of buzz. I mean, granted, it didn't go down a ton, in the sort of the big correction that we've had. Let's see what it did actually, just so I can measure it from peak to trough. 67. So it fared a little bit better than some of the other stuff. But I don't like the fact too that in this week when everything is running right now, it's actually setting all-time lows. So to me, that's a bit of a red flag too. Like, we should be seeing, there's a lot of memes and stuff that have really been cranking over the last 3 to 4 weeks. And for this to be setting all-time lows right now is sort of counter to the rest of the market, which tells me it's not really tracking with the rest of the market in that regard. So for me, it's a pass, is sort of my take on it.
Yeah, I just looked it up too. It's ranked 535 on CoinGecko's market cap. For something that low, I feel like, and that's not outpacing Bitcoin, I think that's just way too risky to hold. You're just better off holding Bitcoin and not worrying about it, or maybe diving into some of the coins that you see on that MCG, and you have better upside with probably the same amount of risk, I guess, So, all right, awesome. Kris, I know you had, actually, let me talk about one of the trades I wanted to mention as well. I talked about this one on Friday on our weekly recap show, and then Raul mentioned it. He tweeted it last night, made me feel good. I'm actually going to talk about the smoking chicken fish one.
Okay,
So
got it.
yeah, I want to comment on the smoking chicken fish trade from Kerry Prince. He had he wanted I wanted to highlight his reasoning here. Although the value has gone down dramatically, the holder count has held relatively well, and that is like extremely important with meme coins on in general, right? You want that holder count to either increase or hold up well. And smoking chicken fish, I mean, they're a church, they're like a cult, and they've been holding it up really well. Had a pleasure of meeting the guys involved in this coin. A great team, like really fun guys. Like they get it, right. And I'm a big fan of community, and I think smoking chicken fish is like one of the funnier fun communities you can get involved in. So yeah, I'm just gonna throw that trade in there. It's up 23. What is that? 33%?
33.
It's up 33% right now. I think it's just tracking well with the other memes. So definitely something you might want to consider. And then keeping in line with that community aspect, I'm going to also recommend this Pengu trade. Now, you might see this trade as down, right? It's down 50%. But if you actually look at how it's performed over the last day, it's up. It was up like 35% or something like that over the last 24 hours. Might have dipped down since then. But I think timing is super important with your trades here. I think John had fantastic reasoning behind this trade. Like, again, you could have the best reasoning in the world. You could, the charts could tell you certain things, but if you don't time it correctly, that trade could just blow up. And I think that's what happened to John here. But ultimately, I think it was a great trade. I think Pengu and that ecosystem in general is one that transcends NFTs. I think Luca Nets is somebody who you want to kind of bet behind especially if you're involved in the Web3 ecosystems and NFTs projects and community coins. He's built it back from the ground up, right? They were dead essentially, and he brought them up. So I think that's an interesting coin to look into. Very active community, and probably the top NFT project right now after CryptoPunks. So definitely want you guys to check those out, or just dive into their ecosystems a little more. So yeah, that's what I've got for you.
Nice. So I can see we had the chart up on the screen for a second. I wanted to touch on Zero Bro. It was one that just caught my eye because it's blowing up. Like literally, it's kind of the same thing like Deep. Yesterday, it was up 109%. Today, it's up another 63%. It was up even higher still. So this one to me, it's a little over. This isn't the kind of thing you want to chase. It's a little too heated. But once this calms back down, to me, this tells me that, again, there's attention on this asset. There's people that are paying attention to what's going on, and that this one is likely to catch a bid in the AI space. So if I go through my watch list here, it's 100 times better than every other AI thing I've got in this list. So it's definitely got people's attention. I don't know why, to be honest, but this chart, didn't go unnoticed. Another one that just caught my eye, honestly, in the last little bit, is the Trump token is blowing up today too. It was up even more, but currently it's up 39% just today. So yeah, it had a bit of a reversal, decent yesterday, but today, again, it caught some kind of bid too, and is blowing up too. Obviously, don't go chasing this either. It needs to calm back down and settle first. But there's certainly a little bit of froth happening, just like we said at the top of the show with the fear and greed. It's dipped well into the greed, literally in the span of 24 hours, and we're seeing it manifest in a number of assets here. So yeah, again, don't chase these. Let them come back down to earth a little bit first. But the risk, people going out the risk curve is definitely happening at the moment.
Fantastic. So we're going to end on this last question here from Kamal. What meme would you suggest for a sky high? So I guess Kamal wants to know what's a good meme that he can put some money into for a moonshot. If you had to pick just one right now based on your MCG, the volume charts, your targets, what one would you pick right now, gun to your head?
God, it's so hard. I mean, really, there's two. It's gonna be Fartcoin or SPX 6900. I'm equal in both of those because I can't decide myself either. But those to me have equal chance of just going to the moon.
Yeah, I can't disagree with you there. I picked up a bag of fart coin a couple of weeks ago after we talked about it and charted it. I'm just going to throw out SCF just because I just recommended it. I think they're a super strong community. But again, Kamal and anyone, these are for moonshots, right? So don't bet your entire portfolio on something like this. These are coins that you throw in some dry powder that you don't mind seeing where it goes, and you can kind of just ride it or lose it all, right? So don't throw your entire portfolio into it. Don't even throw like more than 10% of your portfolio into it. I would say some people might even argue that's way too much. So just keep that in mind. Don't fuck this up, guys.
Right.
Kris, it's been another great episode. We'll see you guys on Monday. Remember, guys, if you want to tune into our longer form TA show live in Discord where we take all your questions, you'll join RV Crypto and hop into our Discord and watch us live or watch the replays on our platform. And until then, we'll see you guys next week.